UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, with another sort of an interesting update on ufology. I think you'll find this fascinating. I know I did when I first heard the testimony of Chase Klotsky, who had a very, very close encounter. Not only was the ship right overhead, but she had an encounter with a gray. So we'll get into that and so much more. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Drug makers have paid a popular DNA ancestry app millions to access consumer DNA. For the price tag of a whopping $20 million, a pharmaceutical company will gain access to a vast collection of consumer DNA information. Folks, this is why tens of thousands use Virtual Shield 1 to protect their data. Virtual Shield 1 is an all-in-one security suite with an industry-leading VPN, the ability to help erase your online data from data mining sites, and identify protection that includes up to a whopping $1 million identity theft insurance policy. Now is the best time ever to get Virtual Shield 1 because every new sign-up gets a 60-day risk-free trial plus several other free bonuses. Get a free trial today by going to Virtual Shield /LA and the number 1. Once again, www.virtualshield/LA and the number 1. You know, as of this post, we actually have 28 films, actually 29 films. I've lost count. There's a huge catalog, streaming.lamarzulli.net. This clip I'm about to show you is from our Watchers series, but I used it in the Roswell Revisited film because it was extremely poignant. And it talks about a close encounter, really of the fourth kind, because Chase is right next, within 6 feet of what we would call a gray. So I'm going to roll the clip and then I'll weigh in on it on the other side.
A huge cornfield, and it was just down the road that his
family. When you say
owned.
Huge cornfield, 100 acres?
About 100 acres.
Okay.
And we jumped in the truck and we drove down there. By the time activity started, there were 7 of us in the field, and was very excited to show us that the lights were already starting to pop up. So,
wow.
You know, he said, well, there's some now.
And this is broad daylight?
No, this is dusk.
Dusk,
It was about dusk. Right. And we literally saw these little lights. They were high in the sky, but they started all popping into the atmosphere.
Wow.
And they would gather together and kind of form together, and they'd move as a unit, and then they'd separate.
What color were they?
They were white, red, blue, all these little lights. Our impression was they were individual. It was probably about an hour after we had gotten there. The witness said, oh my gosh, Chase, here it comes. And he says, here comes that light. And he points up, and sure enough, I see this light starting to head into the atmosphere, but it's closer and closer to us. It's just strange. And then 2 more pop up. As it's coming, I start realizing these aren't 3 independent lights or 3 different craft, like what we were watching earlier.
Sure.
These were on a triangle. And at first it looked 3, but then you started seeing where the outline of the craft, it was becoming more and more defined, and it started to block out the stars.
Oh boy.
And it was...
How big was it?
It was huge. It was very big, and not...
When you say very big, give me an idea.
Well, one of the techniques that we used was to hold your arms straight out above you.
Right.
And if I opened a magazine, it would barely cover the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was very big. As it came forward,
Any noise?
Nothing. It never changed direction. It never changed speed, altitude.
Was it
from
moving
what we
slowly?
saw. Very slowly.
Very slowly.
And it's hard to describe how it moved because you almost want to say it glided, but not quite. It wasn't flying. It wasn't drifting. The exact word and the way the atmosphere changes when you're in the presence of something like this, it's very hard to define because this is not our reality.
So this craft is approaching you now?
It's flying right over our heads.
And it's very large.
It's huge. And that's...
What were you thinking when this was going on?
I was excited. I was so excited because, as an investigator since 1994,
sure,
this is the first time I am looking at something that I absolutely know is beyond us. It has to be, just the way it moves and just the feel, everything about what was going on. And so I was excited. I'm picking up my cameras, nothing's working. I'm so frustrated because I have all of this equipment.
And we've heard this before in UFO encounters. When people encounter, they go to photograph things, the cameras don't work, all the electricity goes off, cars stop running. I mean, this goes with the phenomenon, supposedly.
Absolutely, and it couldn't be more frustrating because as an investigator, this is my one opportunity,
Sure.
My first opportunity.
And you're shut down.
Absolutely, and it's extremely, extremely overwhelming to have something like this right there, and there's nothing you can do to record it. All of a sudden, there was just this feeling, and I turned around and kind of asked everybody else in the field if they felt like they were being watched.
Okay.
And I said, and I don't mean from up there, I mean from down here. And before anyone could answer, and there was barely any time, there was this fear that just gripped. It was physical, LA. It like punches into you almost. It's just really hard to describe.
I'm very familiar with that feeling.
This is not fight or flight. This is times 1,000. This is every single cell in your body is very aware of a blind terror. We always kind of thought maybe afterwards that whatever was going on in that cornfield, they didn't want us there, whether they had a job. But again, we were left with way more questions than answers.
So at this point, you're terrified.
Yes.
And what happens next? What do you do?
I run. I turn, and
With your equipment or without your equipment?
I drop my equipment. I literally drop my
And
equipment.
your equipment's worth how many thousands of dollars?
Many thousands
So
of
you
dollars.
leave your equipment in the field.
Yes,
So you are genuinely terrified.
absolutely.
You don't even know really why you're afraid at this point.
No.
You have, in fact, it makes no sense.
The witness was in front of me, and all of a sudden he stops. He moved a flashlight, and never so shocked in my life because standing 6 feet away was this little being about 3.5 foot tall. And I was so stunned. And the first thing that hit me was, oh my gosh, this is not that cute little Roswell alien. However, it was gray. It did have the black eyes, but they weren't the real big, wrap-around almond, but they were almond shaped. The first thing I thought of after that was his legs were so tiny, twig-like. And now looking back and doing more, investigation and thinking more, and now that we know what the other witnesses had seen and said and talking, I believe that it was more the reflection of the flashlight.
Okay.
But it just struck me. That is what I was thinking at the time, was his little legs were just so rail thin and twig-like.
Terrifying.
We weren't supposed to be there.
Right.
And who runs from that? I've been,
Wanting
investigating
to see,
and chasing these things for, the better part of my adult life. And there it is right there. And it was the holy grail for a ufologist, is this little being, but we weren't supposed to be there. We were not supposed to interact. We were not supposed to do anything but get out of that cornfield.
What expression did it have on its
Nothing.
face? Nothing.
Absolutely.
Did it gesture towards you in any way?
No,
Did it move towards you?
nothing.
It just stood there.
And
you made eye contact with it.
Yes.
What was that like?
Terrifying.
Terrifying. So this was filmed at Senior Juan's Paracas Museum, Paracas History Museum in Peru, circa 2013, 2014, somewhere in that window of time. The late director and my former business partner, Richard Shaw, shot the footage, did a great job as always. But Gil Zimmerman and I have been working on the last 6 films of our UFO series. We had instructions from the guy upstairs to get all the films out before the end of the year. I am that close to finishing up the last of the series, which actually will be number 9 in the series, but we're going to do a bonus DVD with that also. So the bottom line is this. Chase is a ufologist. She's been chasing this, no pun intended, forever, and been involved in the phenomena. So this craft comes right overhead. And what's amazing about the testimony, all the people in the field turn at the same time and then run. And then, of course, the guy with the flashlight looks over there. He sees the gray. Everyone stops. And Chase tells us that it was fight or flight times 1,000. That every cell in her body was just fearful. What do you do with that? So on the other side of the aisle, and this is what we're working on for the last film, What is the Truth? Which is the last film in the series. So what is the truth? Are these benevolent space brothers from some faraway galaxy here to solve all our problems? Well, if that's the case, why not give us the cure to cancer 30 or 40 years ago? It's not what they do. They abduct people. They abduct 5-year-old boys. They implant 5-year-old boys. That's Emil Jurek, who not only was in our Watchers series, we kept him anonymous, but after he was sort of outed, he came on the record in our fourth film in the series. And this is where Gil Zimmerman, my new business partner, and I have really been joined at the hip, and we're working on these films. We've got 6 films out this year. That's a lot, especially for such a small production company as we are here in studio. But I digress. The bottom line is that Emil was abducted at 5 years old. He was then implanted. This phenomena has a physicality to it. There's no doubt about it. When Chase sees that triangular UFO over the field, that's not a delusion. When that gray is standing, 6 feet away from her, that's not an illusion. That's not a picture being put into her mind. Everybody saw it. And afterwards, they all discussed what they had seen. In my opinion, the phenomena, all of ufology, the entire phenomena has a very dark and nefarious side. Certainly our cattle mutilation film talks about this at great length. And maybe tomorrow I'll be doing an update on that because my editor, Sonda Allison, shot me some very interesting links to websites which talk about bovine blood being used in human transfusions, which we talk about in the cattle mutilation film. Folks, we're the only so-called Christian ministry that has what I believe the truth about the UFO phenomena. There's not one film. Right now, there's 8, and we're working on 9. What is the truth? And that will be done before the end of the year, but we will not release it probably to the end of January. Check it out. Go to our website, lamarzulli.net, or if you just want to stream them, streaming.lamarzulli.net. Streaming.lamarzulli.net. I will be at Claremont, California. John Adam, please put up the banner. Very shortly, I'll be speaking on Friday night, Saturday morning, and Saturday afternoon. There'll be Q&A, and always great to meet the folks, and hope to see you there. At the end of the month, I'll be down in Lubbock, Texas. Once again, Friday night primer, Saturday morning, Saturday late morning, and then afternoon after the lunch break, followed by Q&As. So I hope to see you at both of those conferences. After that, it's the Prophecy Watchers Conference, and that is always fantastic. It'll be sold out, guaranteed. There'll be upwards of 1,000 people there. Always great to meet the folks no matter where we go. I will come to your church in Southern California for free, for a love offering, even that, because we can just travel. And I have all this information. There are now 30 films in our catalog. There are 13 books. There are decades and decades of research. The UFO phenomena is all over the news right now. Our Congress is talking about it. What is this? Everything we do is from a biblical perspective, the guidebook to the supernatural. All of this was foretold, which leads me to a saying: what was foretold is unfolding right in front of our eyes. What was written will come to pass. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back all over the weekend because we're wrapping up the year. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you have not subscribed, please check that out. Once again, our website, lamarzulli.net, or streaming.lamarzulli.net. Remember, folks, UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago.
The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucer. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brizzell was the man who discovered the saucer. Colonel William Blanchard of the Roswell Air Base refuses to give details of what the flying disc looks like.